to the show, everyone. Welcome. This is the Maximo Show live Tuesday night, VodPod Media. Welcome, everyone, to the stream. If you're watching this, give us a like, comment, share, because every Tuesday night we're taking over your airwaves. And we got so many shout outs. We got so many things going on in the world. We want to take a few moments to think about everything that's happening out there. Take a few moments to welcome our guests here in just a moment. But we got to thank all of our supporters, everyone that tunes in every week. We appreciate your support on keeping this thing going here at VodPod Media. We got a lot of shows. We got a lot of good content pumping in here and pumping out to the airwaves. It's interesting. I'm here chatting with Irene Chavez Galvan, someone who wears all of the hats. I found out today she's already been at a luncheon that she's planned. She's been had callbacks for a show she's acting in. She also sings opera, and she's getting ready to sing the national anthem, tomorrow or 2 nights from now, amongst all the many hats that she wears. And the first question I have for her is, how does she do it all? But we got to give a big shout out to all of our people that are watching, that are supporting at home. We've talked about a lot of the people that we've had in studio over the last couple of weeks. We've had Claudia on the show. We've had Laura Garza also on the show from Teatro Salon. Yeah. My partner Destiny has been on the show. She's watching at home right now. Hey, babe.
She's doing some phenomenal stuff.
Yeah, I think she is too. Thank you for saying that. Yeah. And one of the things on that note that we try to do here in this network through our Heritage Month celebrations is highlight good people. And everywhere I go, everyone knows Irene for all of the good work you do and the good energy that you put out there. Thank you. And so it's been a pleasure to, have you in tonight. We've been talking a few weeks about having you on, and you've been so busy with your schedule. So let's just get into it right now, and we'll kind of bounce around here. But how do you do it all?
I don't sleep, actually. I balance. I get like 7, 8 hours of sleep a night. But the truth of it is I have a very good team. So I have a wonderful, loving, supportive husband, Richard, who holds it down, and he has prioritized our family. So I don't have to worry as much, right? And so that's been a blessing, because when you have, I think every strong woman I know has typically a strong man right behind them. And a good team. So typically a circle of chingonas also having her back and encouraging her. And I'm blessed to have some really great friends. And then I've got a really great daughter, Alex, who's 25, who, it's great to have another adult in the house, right? So someone who can go and run errands and support Maya, Maya, Jojo, and Alex are my kiddos. And so it always feels like there's things in motion, but I don't have as much stress on my head because I know they've got my back.
Well, that's good, because stress is something you don't really want to invite into your space. No. Stress is a downer. It is something that takes over our people's lives and leads to a lot of things, negative things. Yeah. So, let me ask you, for those folks that don't know, Google Irene, see all the things that she's doing, amazing work up in Austin, here in San Antonio, all over. I feel like you're living out part of your purpose, if I'm not mistaken here. Now, let me ask you, do you feel like you're in your prime with everything that you're doing?
Yeah, I feel like I'm hitting my stride. I think for a lot of people, including myself, that time of COVID was a real time of self-reflection and of where am I spending my time and my energy? And is this my purpose? Am I doing what I want to do, right? And then how am I contributing? And is this the best way in which to contribute? So around that time, I started working with a coach who is phenomenal. So Gabriela, if you're watching, thank you. And she really gave me some perspective and understanding, giving me tools for self-reflection and understanding how to really be positive and how to manifest things, right? And just claim things that are yours and that you want. And so for a long time, I think I've been wanting to be creative. Now I've written some poems, I've written some stories, I've gotten published in different ways, but I was afraid to call myself a writer because that took on a different responsibility, right? And I shied away from that. And again, during COVID, I started thinking, why not my voice? And there are things and stories that I want to tell, and why not me, right? Yeah. There's a million stories, and our gente doesn't get represented enough. Our Latinos don't often have our own stories told. So I thought, I'm gonna work on that. And I had written a one-act play years back, and it got selected by the Guadalupe, and I was shocked. I thought it was like a Teatro Salon, like they selected like 5 or 6, and I thought I'm gonna submit and maybe I'll get free tickets.
The Cochinas Christmas.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it was funny, and it was about these 3 girls who graduate and they're in the 90s, and they come home. This is before cell phones and all that, and they're basically coming home to San Antonio from all over the place. One's from an Ivy League, one stayed behind, and the other one, like their boyfriend moved on, and it's just kind of reconciling our culture, our norms, how we view the world. It's all of that, and so it was my first experience as a playwright. And then so fast forward years later, I'm thinking, I still have stories I want to tell, and I'm working with Seniors in Play, which is a wonderful nonprofit run by the actor Tony Plana. So I'm sure you've seen, Tres Amigos, right?
Yeah.
He's el jefe. When you want the woman, you just take this. So he's a lovely man who's become a mentor for me. And his thing is, when he was really involved in creating this nonprofit out of LA, he came to San Antonio and wanted to really engage here, because it's about our elders acting and doing improv and telling their own stories. And so I was working with them. We worked on getting funding from the city and the county, and now it's at every senior center in the city.
Wow.
And so we have our elders owning their stories and acting. And no offense to bingo and loteria, like there's other activities they can do, but that interaction keeps them sharp.
Yeah.
Right? And it gives them, it's fun, it's play. And from there, I've been able to gather stories like from our Edgewood Veterans Group, which I don't know if you knew this, but I learned this just a year and a half ago, is they had the largest sacrifice of any school district in the country. There were 67 Latinos who lost their lives in the Vietnam conflict. And so those are 67 lives, brothers, sisters, brothers, hermanos, cousins, that are gone. And this group has those stories, right? And so I'm thinking, why aren't we seeing that on the big screen? Why aren't we talking about that and the disproportionate amount of Latinos who were drafted into that war and sacrificed, and how are we honoring their stories in them? So all of that to say, I've gathered and I put a play together that's called Las Comadres de Morales Street. And we did a little bit of it at the Jumpstart last year, and it was well received. And I'm about to finish it and submit it. But it's about these 2 comadres who've lived through the snowvid, right? The snow and the COVID, and have lost their husbands during that time, and are, feeling the impacts of gentrification on their neighborhood, and all the stories of the comadres and our people in that neighborhood, and how it's reflective, and how it's not black and white. It's very multifaceted. So I'm really proud of that.
Yeah, and I got to recognize you as well for putting on for communities that are underrepresented, undervalued. The elderly community, the veteran community, the aging community, however we might not want to identify it. But typically communities that don't have enough advocacy. And so you have many titles, right? Activist, playwright. I've called you a community champion here because I think if anybody has deserved the title, it's you, for the work that you genuinely want to do.
That's
I've seen you, but I've seen you all over. I think about years ago, I've seen you at the marches and just being down there, being humble and talking to people and really having a genuine way of connecting with people. And, a lot of people too, people that are into business or opportunists, they find ways to try to get something in return. And that's never been you. I'll be honest, folks, people always ask me, all the time, how do you always have new people on the show? They always ask me, like, how do you, every week you have someone new, you bring in 2 or 3 people, you've never had these people. Irene's here for the first time. How did you get Irene? It's because of people like Irene that we have numerous people. Irene has personally, without anybody knowing this, without getting anything in return, has set up several emails to introduce me to people and say, hey, Maximo, you should have this person on the show. Meet so-and-so. I think they'd be really good. They do X, Y, Z, and that's very kind of you. You don't have to do that, and that's, work I know that you're doing in other spaces. The other thing is that we were talking before, the cameras came on here. When you came in, you brought your lovely daughter in. Thank you for doing that. You've been traveling around, moving around all day. You really believe and embody uniting people and working together. All of the people that you work with on a daily basis are all the people that are doing a lot of things around town. You mentioned Melanie Mendez, who we're a fan of on the show. Gaming's What? Look up her blog, look up her work, as a personality and host. Erica, Prosper Nuremberg, who's doing things around town. We see her all over, moving and shaking. Claudia, as I mentioned. There's several people that, come to mind that are doing work. We are all actively in that ecosystem of people coming together, because that's how it should be. That's really how it should be, of working together, getting along. We know things are not going to be perfect, right? We have disagreements here and there, but we should want to do things together.
Yeah, and I think that's just part of being human and being in community, and I love that. And I love connecting people and elevating people and sharing stories, and it gives me joy, right? And I think that's also purposeful. So one of the other things is that there's so many unsung heroes in our community. There's so many good people doing the work that don't look for the recognition or need the validation, right? So I think about Emily and Joel over at Folklores, who are like feeding people during COVID and getting written up about it and saying like they're great. They're just doing it because they thought it was the right thing to do, right? So I like that, and I love people like that who are giving and are just wanting to be helpful. Like, I think that was how I was raised, is to be like, how can we be of service, right? So that's really at my heart. And I think about too, like we were talking about the mentality of scarcity and how that holds us back. I worked in nonprofits for a very long time, and I think oftentimes there are a lot of good people doing work in the community, especially in nonprofit organizations. But then there's also the sense of scarcity of, oh, we only have this amount of pie, and so we can't share it, or we're afraid that if we work with that group, they're going to take our funding away. And I think those things also hinder us as a community for not looking at, like, how do we work together more? How do we leverage our resources and really come after a grant where it's 2 or 3, where it's harder to say no to us? Yeah. And so it's something that I try to personify, and I try to surround myself with other chingonas, right? And other chingons who are doing the work, and that want to see a better community, not only for ourselves, but for our kids and the generation that comes after us.
Yeah, that's very valuable. Talk to me a little bit about, culture. Talk to me a little bit about San Antonio. You mentioned the term chingones, chingonas. You're involved with so many things around the culture. Latina Leadership Institute, some of these plays. A lot of the spaces I've known you from, culture is at the the center of the work, right? It's helping these communities. For better or for worse, right? It's Hispanic Heritage Month, right? We don't need 30 days to be allowed to celebrate our culture per se, but
Taco Tuesday is every day.
Exactly, right? We have them every day, but today is Tuesday, and tacos are good, so why not? Yeah. But talk to me a little bit about your thoughts of the culture, how you represent. I mean, any of that stuff.
Yeah, so cultura, I think, is at the heart of like who we are. And for me, I'm originally from Corpus Christi, so Corpitos is near and dear to my heart. But I also, we have extended family, as many of us do. We have family in the Valley and in California and San Antonio. And so every time I came to San Antonio, I was like, man, this is the big town. Like, this was the New York of Texas for me. And so I wanted to come and be at St. Mary's and go to school and I'm the first of my family to get a college degree. And the funny fact of that is that my father disowned me and was like, oh, crees que eres mucho? Huh? You think you're big shit, right? Go do it on your own. And I, he didn't come to my high school graduation because I was moving away, and how dare I? Wow. And so that impacted me, but I thought, I'll show him, and I'm going to do this. And I know that this is what I'm meant to do, is to go and make my own way. And so I did. And then a year later I come back, and he's like, well, I guess you're doing it, huh? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, okay. And that was it. Like, he didn't say he was sorry. He didn't so it's just like this machismo, like, oh, okay, I guess I was like, it was kind of like, oh, so you're doing it, huh? It was just that. And so I think about like how I parent, right? And I would never do that to my own children. But I understood like his generation is of a different time, and I have to acknowledge and give him grace. May he rest in peace, and understand like we come from a cultura of the word that comes to mind is aguántate, just buckle down and do the work, and keep your head down and move forward, and don't be too loud, don't be too big. And I think it's a disservice to us, and we have to, our playing small doesn't serve anybody, and us being quiet, we have to tell our stories. We have to embrace that cultura, and we have more in common, and we have, there's a love of community. And I think what we've seen, especially most recently, is a lot of the like, what have you done for me lately, or where's my piece, right? And I think we need to move away from that and really kind of take a step back and think of the we. What are we doing as a community? How are we tackling this? What are we doing together, collectively? So cultura for me is at core of like the stories, right? Because I want to tell those stories, because I don't see them being done. So the play for me is big. And then cultura in the sense of familia, and like I was on the board for the Cesar Chavez Legacy and Educational Foundation for like 12 years, and that group is doing amazing work. I know the scholarship committee raised like $50,000 last year, and so part of the responsibility for us was going into schools, talking about Cesar, but also talking about Dolores, and talking about like the struggle and how they overcame, right? And the struggle that continues, but you think of all that's happening, and we don't have to lose that part of our cultura to be successful, right? We can take it with us. And I think even with Latina leadership, no offense to any other leadership programs, but I think LLI is the best, because there's this aspect and like a cultural relevancy of what it is to be a Latina, right? So in that program, we're talking about, imposter syndrome. We're talking about what the cultura tells you, or what the messages we got growing up, and then disseminating it and thinking about that. And then we're talking about like how you're ready for leadership. And most of the time, man, these women are ready.
Oh yeah.
You just need the platform, or you need a bit of a push to go, you know what? I see you and I acknowledge you, and you're a badass. Like, go after it. Because, these positions on boards, on commissions, and nonprofits, running for elected office, we need more Latinas at the table where decisions are being made, because so many decisions are being made without us or without our perspective. And so I feel like the community is missing out. And so, again, cultura is very centered, because it feels like home, right? And we want to acknowledge that and who we are and where we come from, but we also are okay to reshape the narrative and take it with us moving forward.
Yeah, that's powerful. You're talking about a lot of good things, and it's funny because, talking about people and talking about initiatives, I remember getting a text from Kelly about donating to the scholarship fund a while ago for the Chavez Educational Foundation. And so congratulations on raising all of the money, everybody that's doing the work towards education, uplifting, youth, uplifting the culture. That's extremely important, at a time where, communities are feeling depraved of resources, and people feel like, oh, they can't do it. Some of the things you're talking about, I'm thinking about mindset, leadership, stepping into, your potential. I've heard a lot about imposter syndrome, which is a tough thing to kind of, wrap your brain around, but it's real. It happens to people, our people are leaders. Our people are, incredibly focused and disciplined and outgoing and can do anything that we wrap our minds around. Yeah. The problem is sometimes we can't wrap our minds around those things. Yeah. And that's why I asked you, like, how do you do it all? Because I know you're all over. You got to, do you have someone that at least manages your schedule, or do you do that too?
No, it's all me.
Do you double book, you triple book yourself often?
Sometimes I double book. And I'm like, oh man, what am I going to do? and I have to but I do a good job of looking at my schedule on Sunday after I talk with my coach and say, okay, what is my priority? So she always starts off with like, what are your wins for the last week? Right. And I think that's so powerful to acknowledge, like, there were some really great things I did this week. Because so often it's like, boom, the next one, let's move, let's get to the next one. And so even with my team in my day job, we take moments to be in gratitude, right? And so we acknowledge, we thank, we say, oh, that's great. And then we look at what's coming for the next week. And so that's helpful. But yeah, there's times where I am struggling, or like something will fall by the wayside. So I was like doing really well with exercise and meal prep, and then Whataburger happened.
Well, look, I mean, it happens for sure.
And I was like, I'll do a grilled chicken. But man, it's timing. It's trying to balance things. And I don't believe there's a balance. I think you just do the best you can with what you've got. Every week is different, but your priorities need to be, like, for me, it helps to remind myself of what are my goals? How am I reaching them? What am I working towards? And, before I would think, years back, I would think, well, I just don't have time. I don't have time for that. And what I've realized is I'm not making time. I'm not prioritizing my time to focus on these. And if it's important, you will focus on it. and it, again, sometimes you just gotta, okay, I'm gonna start again, right? You have to forgive yourself and give yourself grace and say, great, maybe I'm not feeling like I'm spending enough time with my family right now. Okay, then what am I gonna do about it? Am I gonna carve out time? Am I gonna speak with my husband and say, okay, well, Saturday we can do this, or can we plan for this? Or, I am the mother, I think, now that I had always hoped I would be, where I'm more sensitive and in tune with the needs of my children, versus I think where I was raised, particularly by my grandparents, was like, I didn't have a say. Like, it was just do it.
Yeah.
Like, do this.
Yeah,
I need
rough.
you here. Yeah. And what was crazy about that life that I'm very grateful for now is we would, they had a fourth grade education. So neither one of them graduated from high school or had much formal education, but they were trabajadores. They were some hardworking people who had an amazing work ethic. And so after school, we'd go and clean insurance agencies. And so my brother and I would go and we'd clean the bathrooms, and we'd sweep, and we'd clean. And that was the price of being in their house, right? Like, we didn't pay rent. We didn't have side jobs. That was a job, a trabajar. We did yards. My grandmother had a big, my grandmother and my aunt at the time, they ran a quinceañera shop.
Oh, wow.
So they did, those like 1980s headpieces with the rhinestones and the shiny, like that with the big bow. Like, I was there with the hot glue gun burning my fingers. And then my brothers and I, we would decorate the hall. So you get that roll of white and then roll it out for the tables and put the little mints. Like, that was every Saturday. And then Saturday night, like, I did not go and party. I didn't do anything. I was there serving cake. Like, like that was just what we did. But, it showed me event planning. It showed me like we were gonna get it done, and this was the work. And so, they didn't have as many advantages, right? And so I make the most of my opportunities, and they were entrepreneurs, and I didn't know it, right? But it laid such a great foundation of familia and work ethic, and I carry that with me. And that's probably gonna be the next play is that quinceañera, like that quinceañera wedding life. Like, every weekend was you were decorating or setting up or doing that, and I didn't get to go dance and hang out. I was there working and cleaning. And so that was kind of embarrassing in high school, but it was the Chavez way, I'll say.
Well, there you go. And you touching on a lot of good subjects. One of the things I wanted to, just get back to quickly is that, some of these generations, our previous generations, they didn't have the resources that we have. They did the best they could. I consider us, somewhat lucky, because the goal is to be a little bit better than the previous generation in a lot of ways. Yeah. Maybe it's financially, maybe it's, how we raise our own children, like you mentioned. But, we also know that many people in our sort of age bracket, we weren't raised the right way. I mean, we were around some things and seen some things we probably shouldn't have seen.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And
No,
like
I hear you.
you telling me about some of the things that you went through with your father, and that's kind of tough to hear.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I would think like, man, you know, me as a dad, I would never say that to my daughter. I don't care what happened, you know? So I'm sorry that you had to go through that, you know? And, you know, here in November, we're going to be focused on a lot of different things around health, particularly mental health, overall men's health. November is my birthday month.
Nice.
So here at the show, we're going to be focused on some subjects that are really important to me, and mental health is up there because of some of those things you talked about, you know, like how we treat people, how we talk to each other, how we raise our children, you know, how we spend time on the things that are important to us, you know, the goals that you set forth, you know. 2 weeks ago on the show, we had Candace Terrazas that was on the show. She mentioned that she has coaches and she has life, you know, coaches that help her with certain things. And you mentioned something that she said as well on the show, which was about balance. She says balance, she doesn't feel like it exists. And that's exactly what you said, you know? And so
Great minds think alike.
we should. So we got to give a shout out to Candace, shout out to everybody, you know, that's watching, people that have been on the show previous, those that we'll have on in the future as well. But, you know, that's an incredibly complex topic for people that want to do a lot of different things, right? And how we spread out our time, you know, how we communicate with others and how we schedule our days. Because my days, I'm sure, are like your days. We're back to back to back. You know, it's interesting because you were talking and about how we get things done. And today I had a small window between like 3 and 5. And I said, okay, I'm either going to wash my car or I'm going to mow the lawn. And so on the way home, it starts to rain a little bit. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe it'll hold off. That way I can do one of these things, you know, just let me get one in and then I can do the other one tomorrow. Well, I got home and then it started to rain a little bit more. I got carried away with my partner. We were doing a few things around the house and the window closed just like that. Yeah. Just like that. And that was the time it was gone. Yeah. And so it you know, it begs the question, you know, how we spend our time, how we make the most of our time, and how we try to fit everything in. Yeah,
I feel like there's those windows too, and sometimes I think, oh gosh, like I wish I would have planned better, or you know, or I leave those things open to see what comes, right? To see, like, I wonder if, like, do I really have to be productive all the time?
That's a great point.
No, I don't. Like, I can just say, I have a friend who was like, yeah, I'm just going to watch football and I'm busy. And I'm like, but you're just watching football. Like, are you doing anything else? He's like, no, I'm just watching the game. And I was like, people can do that, huh? Like, they can just watch TV and hang out. That's interesting. And I was thinking, am I working way too much? And I said to my husband, he's like, yeah, you do. It's just because we're so connected to our phones, right? Like at a moment's notice, you can be here and it's a text and it's this, or, oh, let me connect this, or let me do that, or let me try to get ahead of this. And so what I have strived to do is just to be present in the moment and to give myself grace to be like, you know what? If I want to just watch the game and have a hot dog, I can do that. And it's okay. Or I have plants and I love plants. I got into that during COVID because I was horrible at plants. Like if you ask my daughter, we brought a rose bush home, like a little one, like the 350 ones you get at HEB, right? They're so cute and pretty. And I was like, oh my God, this is great. And she was like, no, Mom, don't do it. And I was like, what do you mean? I'm good. I can grow this. It's fine. So I was like begrudgingly like, I'm going to take it. And I took it home. And, you know, we buy groceries here and they're in the car and we're taking everything out. And then the next day I was like, oh, the rose bush. And I went outside and it was dead in the car.
Oh my gosh.
Don't
tell me.
And my daughter Alex was like, see? And I was like, you're right. So we tried cactus and that imploded because I overwatered it. I didn't even know you could overwater cactus. I just thought they held it in. Like, what the heck? And so then I was like, I'll get a book and I wanna be better at this. And I got this aloe vera plant and it grew and I was like, okay, I can do this. And so then, you know, practice. And so now I have like 10 aloe vera plants at the house because that's like the one thing I can grow. But it just gives me joy to get my fingers in the dirt and to grow and to see it and just nurture it a little. And there are other friends like Miro who's got a green thumb, and I'll ask him like, how do you get this to grow? Or I see that this is happening, and so it's just something that I like, right? And it's okay. Like, it has nothing to do with anything, right? But it's something that brings me joy, that reminds me actually of my grandmother, because she had a green thumb, and the roses in her garden, I mean, they were the size of your hand. They're like big white roses and beautiful. And then when she died, my father didn't take care of any of that. In fact, he cut it all down because he couldn't stand the fact that they were still alive and she wasn't. Ooh. And so there's a lot of grief in that, right? So you're thinking about like the roses will not grow, like on my, like they over my dead body, they're not going to grow anymore. And so like planting is a way of resistance, right? And so we find these things that connect us to our cultura and our family and our loved ones, and then we just are patient and present. And I think those are beautiful things that we got to do more and more. Even just going to hear music, or I sometimes go to the McNay just to look around and just be there and not think of anything and just clear my mind, because there's nothing more beautiful, I think, than those pieces of art that give us a reflection of what life is or what it could be, right? And I love that perspective. That's
a great point. I wish that many of our people had the grace to be given time to do some of those things, because, to me, life is about balance. I like to try to balance. I like to talk to other high achievers about productivity and how do you fit it all in and how do you do it? Show me some of those life hacks. How do you manage the schedule, or how do you get an extra hour of sleep, or wake up extra hour earlier feeling refreshed? Stuff like that. Tell me a quick meal you can make and last in the fridge for weeks or days, or so to speak, right? Little things like that. I'm always into those hacks, but I also have my certain things that I do for self-care, but productivity is a part of it, right? And how we manage our schedule, how we manage our personal, professional lives, our business goals, things you want to accomplish, things that I want to accomplish, or we have things that we want to do. So I wish more of our people had the grace to do those things. Some people are working 2 or 3 jobs to stay afloat. Other people have, run the kids to soccer, run the kids here, those sorts of lives, and people are very busy and have high demand and high stress. And I wish that it wasn't that way. That would be a wish I had. If I could make one wish, is that people wouldn't be as stressed as they are, because people are very stressed.
They are. And I know that I struggle with that. And I know lots of people do. I think some of the best advice I've been given is an elder worked with a work group that we had, right? And he said, how are you beginning your day? And at first I was like, I'm on the phone. And he's like, no, slow down. Take me through how you start. And so each of us in the circle went through, and then he's like, let me tell you how I start my day. And so he's like, he woke up, and one of the first things he did was a gratitude journal. And he acknowledged and was in gratitude for whatever it is, top 10, right? And he said that it set pace. And then he went outside into his yard barefoot, and he connected back with the earth. And that centered him. And I was thinking, man, this guy is intentional, next level. And I'm thinking, I jump out of bed and I'm already like, what do we got to do? And I'm like, what am I stressing out for? Like, what am I rushing for? I'd rather... I want to be like, that gave me a good view of center. Come back to center, Irene. What is important? I don't have to be productive all the time. And how do I want to start my day? That's a great question. Like, how do I want to start my day? I don't want to be in a rush. But again, you're thinking, you've got kids, you got this, you got that. And so it's like, you have to be more intentional about how you start your day, how you end your day, what your thoughts are, like your mindset. Are you being positive? All that, I think, really can be very impactful to your life. And then the other piece is setting those goals and doing them and celebrating the small wins. And then, you got to look at the short and the long game, right? It's like so often I was like, I feel, and this is my big confession, is I have felt for a long time that I can't do enough. And so that's why I keep digging, and I'm like, one more hour or one more thing, and one more thing to cross off my list, right? And I push myself in a little too hard sometimes. And what has been the blessing of my life is my husband reminding me that whatever my best is today, and whatever I've done today is good enough. And that helps me really center myself to be like, you know what, you're right. And that's enough, right? And tomorrow will be another day.
Yeah.
And when I can really fully accept that, then I can be more present because I'm not worried about the next thing. It's something I think you mentioned to me before when we were talking about being present and listening to understand rather than be understood. So you want to be here, and I want to hear you, and I want to hear you without the prejudice of me wanting to interrupt you or give you, oh, you should do this, you should do that. It's like, no, let me just be with you and honor your spirit, and honor that we are in community together. And then from there, the magic happens.
Yeah. The other thing is that, again, sitting down with people like yourselves, talking to a lot of different people, a lot of people feel that way, that like, I can't do enough. Like, I'm not good enough. I don't deserve to be this. I don't deserve to be in this space. Right. Perhaps that is part of that so-called imposter syndrome, right? You mentioned you didn't think you could be seen as a writer or a playwright. Yeah. We are our own toughest critics. No one will scrutinize us like we will.
Amen, brother.
Right? Yeah. And so that grace that you talk about, we have to practice that, and we have to give that, right? It's like you can garner that, you can attract that, you can practice that, and then you can give that. That's how I think about grace. Because so many people are dealing with stuff way beyond our comprehension. We see people on a day-to-day, we think, oh, that person's being rude. Man, we don't know what that person's going through. No. We don't know what people are dealing with on the day-to-day stuff. And again, that mental health, that spiritual health, that groundedness that you were talking about with the gentleman, not a lot of people have that, and people are stressed out. They've got bills, they've got, family woes. And, you mentioned relationships. A lot of people don't really put the work into the relationships, at home. And that's not a very positive thing, And so that's just a couple of random thoughts on that, and again, we wish everyone the best. If you're watching this, we hope you're not stressed out to the gills. We hope you're not, living your life, day to day and wondering what you're going to do next for a quick dollar or so to speak, but we wish everyone the best. And however we can help people, I mean, it's people like Irene, people like myself, anyone, if we can connect you with resources, if we can help you out, please let us know, because we want to give that grace. We want to extend that grace. And I've got to ask you on that note, because we talked about leadership. Do you consider yourself to be a community leader?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So we know leadership is hard, right? To get leadership right, it's very difficult. Many people, you see people, whether they be elected officials, people that are in charge of, school districts, or people that are in charge of major companies, they get it wrong a lot of times. There's a lot of ways to get it wrong. If you are a community leader, which I believe you are, let me ask you, what is the biggest misperception about you? If there are any.
I don't know. I think someone was telling me the other day, everyone loves Irene. And I was like, not everybody. There's always people that are going to be naysayers or just going to come at you negative, or not everyone who follows you or talks with you is a friend, right? I mean, and people, I think what I've come to understand too is people are in different places in their leadership journey, and people have different mindsets. So like I've had to change my mindset in order to work towards my highest, greatest good. And I feel that there are certain people that come around me who are also working on that, right? And they're more self-reflective, and they're humble, and they understand they're not perfect, but they're going to do the best they can with what they have. And so I think if there's a misconception about me, is that, you know, maybe I don't have bad days, or that I'm surrounded by friends and I've got all this, and I have a small circle, but I'm always willing to help. I'm always willing to support. People have reached out to me for many different things, whether it's guidance or, hey, I was wondering about this, or can you connect me with that, or whatever. And so if I can help, that's what I feel I'm called to do, and so I'm happy to do that. I think one of the other things that's been helpful for me is that I've learned to be able to not only give grace but receive it. So often we think we have to do everything, and it's okay to ask for help.
Yeah.
It's okay to say, you know what, I don't know, or I'm not sure. And, you know, Maximo, can you help me? Or can you connect me with the right person? Or, you know, I have this friend that's struggling, and really be great if we could do, you know, whatever it is, right? I think we get nervous about like, oh, if I do this, you're going to expect something from me. And I think the mindset should just be like, look, we're in the we, right? We're in the community, and I don't do this for any particular reason. I just feel called. I feel called, or I get this tap on the shoulder like, hey, you should really listen to this, or you should do that, and I go with my gut, and it has not steered me wrong yet. So
there you go. There you have it, folks. And so, listen, I wanted to tell you, I love your watch strap too, by the way. That's a very nice.
Yeah, it's that Frida. I love it. It's like a little otomi. So
excellent. Well, tell us, you know, anything else. We've got about 10 minutes left in the show. Is there anything else you want to highlight about some of your recent works? Any shout outs you want to give?
Yeah, actually, I do want to say that years back, before COVID, when I was coming out to do consulting for the first time, I started an event called Fuck Up Night.
Yeah.
And it's about entrepreneurs sharing and being very vulnerable about how they fucked up in business. And Miro Hernandez and I still do this event. We're doing one in November. And it's like a Fuck Up San Antonio that people can Google and find. And it's just entrepreneurs being real. And just saying, you know, there's a story about like someone came out and was like, I got into this contract with a friend. It didn't work out. I should have looked at the fine print, la, la, la. And it's very much you fuck up and you move on, right? Like everyone has challenges. No one's perfect. And if you're an entrepreneur who's been there, done that, you know, or even someone who wants to be and understand what it takes to be an entrepreneur, I invite people to come out. Events free. We're real big on just, again, being in community and allowing people to be present and to ask questions. And we get 3 speakers every time. Really great crowd over at Dulce Sueños Coffee off of Fredericksburg Road. And we'll be putting it out for November. So if Maximo, you feel like telling your fuck up story.
Well, there's certainly enough to go around in my book. You can just ask me, yours truly, Buster Moon. You know?
Yeah, we'd love to have you. And we're just going to keep doing it and just putting it out there and supporting small business. And I feel like that's my way of continuing to push the story, right? And to share the narrative, like, yeah, you can be an entrepreneur and you can be vulnerable and you get knocked down, but you get back up. And I feel like small business is the lifeblood of the community. So anything we can do to support that. And again, it's free, it's open to anybody, and it's a lot of fun. So
yeah, and how many? This is your second or third?
So this will be our third, and gosh, it's gonna be connected, I think, with the holiday market too. So we're gonna get some vendors out there, and encourage again to shop small. You know, yeah. You're going to do Thanksgiving or Christmas. You know, go to a local baker. Look at some of we have some really wonderful artisans in this community who are artists. I think about like Maricela over at Sweet Chelas and what she makes, and just all of those people, the buena gente of our community, and just again trying to gather people and elevate that and celebrate them because they're doing beautiful work.
Yeah, we wish we could highlight everyone and celebrate everyone. Yeah. We want to also recognize the Delgado Law Firm over there on the northwest side, servicing all of San Antonio. Make sure you call the Delgado Law Firm for all your personal injury needs. If you've been hit by a car or truck, there's no incident too small. For a fender bender, she was able to award one of her clients some $7,000, I've heard, on a success story. There's bigger success stories, but that's one that people thought, well, I never thought it would happen, but I called Ophelia, and this is what she was able to do for us. And so, we give a shout out to those, at the panaderias, those that are our attorneys, our abogadas, those that are our playwrights, those that are doing media like we are. There's enough energy for us to go around and do all of our work, to recognize, to celebrate everyone. And that's what we've been able to do consistently here at the Maximo Show, here at VodPod Media. The show always goes by so quickly. We appreciate your time. We know it's been a long day. We're going to let you close out the show with the final closing words, and that'll be our show for tonight. This isn't the last time we'll see you, though. Of course, you're always welcome back at any time, but give us some closing words that you got for the good of the order, for the masses, and we'll take it home that way.
Yeah, I one, thank you for allowing me to be present and here. It is an honor, and you're doing great work in the space, and continued acknowledgement and love to you, brother, for all that you're elevating these stories and highlighting people who are doing such great things in our community. And I'm really honored that you've had me and that you acknowledge me as a community champion.
I would say it's accurate.
Nice. I'm gonna get that somewhere.
It's a new license plate for you or something.
Yeah, no, for real. hashtag champion. So I'll just say that it's coaching, I think, is a great thing. And I think even the best players in the NBA, like you think about Tim Duncan and all that, all have coaches. You think of Greg Popovich, like best coach ever. So I think if you're considering those things, go for it, right? If you're thinking about, like, we think about childhood trauma and some of the things that we've dealt with over a lifetime, go to therapy. Like things that you've been thinking that maybe you've had this tap on the shoulder, like, I need to pick up the piano again. I really love that. There is no time like the present. Like, just make the time. Just do it. Just do the work. Just do the work. Put it out. Whatever is in your heart, like whether it's you want to run for an elected position, you want to pick up the guitar, you want to learn flamenco, like be in community and find those resources, and you will find other people who love that stuff, and you'll find your tribe, and magic will happen. And there's no time like the present. And why not you, right? Like I think about it, for me, it was like, why not me? And so I'm living that. I'm proof, and I'm doing it, and I have no regrets, because life is short, and you do not want to think about the what ifs, right? So what? You fail, you drop, you have to practice. Okay. You just keep doing it. You keep moving forward. You keep doing it. And, again, if people want to connect with me in any capacity, you can look me up on LinkedIn and on Facebook. Teatro Galvan is the artist Instagram. And I'm down for collaboration, and I want to do more in community. So
excellent. Well said. Thank you so much. Hey, she's giving you the notes right now, folks. Si se puede. It can be done. Find your community. Find people that want to uplift you. We're uplifting you. We're uplifting our champions like Irene. We're uplifting our people like Gailon. Everyone here that's made VodPod Media a reality. We're all a work in progress. We're all seeing it day to day, week by week, getting it done little by little. The pyramids of Chichen Itza weren't built in a night. They weren't built in a day. They were built over a period of time, and that's what we're doing here with the community, folks. So if you're doing community work, shout out to you. If you're uplifting people, shout out to you. And if you're not there yet, shout out to you too. Keep going. We're going to support y'all in some way, shape, or form. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight, folks. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Support Irene. Find her on social media, Teatro Galvan, and we'll see you next time, next Tuesday, folks. Much love.
Bye, y'all.